Hello, hello. Okay, today we are blabbing on Capri's birth story, and I am so excited. Out of all my episodes that I've done so far, the most viewed is Creed's birth story. So I don't know if everyone just loved that one so much, or it was also my first, so I don't know if like people were interested on what the podcast would sound like and just things like that, so they tuned in. But anyway, I'm excited to share this. Before I jump in, I know I say this every time, but thank you for taking the time to listen to this and just supporting. I remember when I talked about doing a podcast and I said my vision for it is like I envision a mom deep cleaning her house, popping her AirPods in and listening to my podcast while she's deep cleaning to like have girl chat or listen to a girlfriend. Or like if you're on your way or you're on your way to work and you have a commute, I envision like the mom sipping her coffee on her way to work or on the way to pick up kids from school, listening to my, like having girl chat, listening to me blab. So, and I have received several messages of women who were like, thank you so much. I had someone message me. She's like, I popped your podcast on while I was blow drying my hair and it was so nice. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that. That is exactly what my vision was with this podcast. And so I'm just so excited to see that that's just exactly how, people are using it or listening, and I love it. And I'm so appreciative of everyone who has messaged me and said, I relate to this. Thanks for opening up, or thank you for sharing this. I needed this, or whatever it is. Like, I just appreciate that. And so thank you so much. But let's jump right into it. Before I start, I want to put a warning out there. I've kind of like wrote some notes for Capri's because hers is a little bit, there's more to it, I feel like. But I want to put a warning out there before I start that I am going to share an incident that Tyson and I went through with Capri during my pregnancy, that I talk about like miscarriage symptoms. And so if that is going to be a trigger to you, I want to warn you. Okay. So like turn it off, don't listen, maybe fast forward to like halfway through, whatever that may be. There's just something early in my pregnancy I do want to share because I think it is a little bit, a big part of our pregnancy journey and her birth story. And I just want to throw that out there. Like I will talk about miscarriage symptoms, and I don't want that to be a trigger to someone without them knowing. So let's jump right into it. With Creed's, I didn't really have to talk about my pregnancy at all with his birth story because it was easy breezy, beautiful. I was so lucky with his pregnancy as a first-time mom. We didn't like find out any bad news at any appointment, or negative news, I should say. I felt good. I worked out until the day I gave birth. Like his pregnancy was about as great as you could ask for, right? Capri's was a totally different story. Hers was not easy breezy. Hers was full of anxiety, full of news. It seemed like every appointment, I was just a nervous wreck the whole time being pregnant with her and things like that. And I'm going to share that of why. I found out so early with her. Like I was 2.5 weeks along when I found out I was pregnant with her. Talk about wow. When you find out at 2.5 weeks and you don't share with people until 14 weeks, that 12 weeks seems like 12 years because you're just keeping that secret in for so long, and it's all you think about every second of the day is that you're pregnant now and you're sick, and it's just something that only you and your husband know. And it's just that little period of time when no one else knows, like, how time feels when you are waiting for something, right? It's just slower. And so we just were waiting to tell everyone, but we wanted to get to a place where we felt like we were ready to do that. So yeah, I found out very, very early with her. And the reason I found out was because I had symptoms. So yes, I was very, very sick. I was very nauseous, very tired. Like, we usually are, I guess. But so we go to our 8-week appointment. Everything was good. We confirmed with the ultrasound, blood work, everything like that. I think that too is why it takes so long, is because technically until you're like 8 weeks, they don't want to do blood work and ultrasound and everything like that. So it's like your pregnancy test says you're pregnant and you can go in and get blood work done. But I think I just waited. I just took a pregnancy test like every week. And yeah, 8 weeks I went in, blood work confirmed. Ultrasound confirmed everything was good. We don't find out gender until birth, which is the best thing ever. It's so fun. And so, yeah, we just confirmed everything was good. Then we went in for our 12-week appointment. It was on a Wednesday, and everything continued to look good there. And then on Friday, so 2 days after that 12-week appointment, we headed to Punta Cana for a body trip that I had earned. We got the okay from my doctor. He was like, yep, everything looks good. You know, you're 12 weeks along. You're good to go. So we head to the Punta Cana, and we arrive on Friday. And on Saturday, we went to the pool with a bunch of friends, and we had just gotten to the pool, just sat down. And again, I just want to preface, this is where I'm going to start to talk about miscarriage symptoms. So if that's a trigger to you, I want to warn you. So we're sitting by the pool, and all of a sudden I am sitting there by the pool. Tyson's in the pool with the guys, and I feel a gush down there. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to the bathroom. So I run over to the bathroom by the pool, and I had blood. And it was not spotting. And right away, my mind goes, I'm having a miscarriage. I panic. I'm like, I'm having a miscarriage. And so I go back to the pool. I grab my stuff. I'm in pure panic mode. My heart's racing. I'm on the verge of crying. All I want to do is get back to the room. And I look at Tyson, and I said, Tyson, let's go. And he kind of looked at me like, what's going on? And I'm like, let's go. Like, I don't think obviously he didn't know what was going on. I was like, let's go. So he gets out. He knew after that something was seriously wrong, because I started power walking back to the hotel room. He jumps out of the pool. He starts running, catching up to me. And he's like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm bleeding bad. I'm having a miscarriage. And he just he was trying to process it right then and there. And he's just like, he wanted to like stop and talk. I'm like, no, we're going back to the room. So we get up to the room. I'm like numb. Like, he's asking me questions and I can't even speak. We get back to the room, and I go back to the toilet, and he comes in, and he could see what I had seen, and instantly we just break down, because we knew right then and there, we're like, yeah, this is serious. This is like a miscarriage. And so then all of the sudden, a deeper panic set in, because it was starting to hit me what was going to come next. I was in a different country. I was 12 weeks. And so I think it hit me like, there's no way I'm going to pass this by myself. I'm going to have a D&C. I'm in a different country. There's no way that I could get back to to the United States for that, because it's only going to get worse from here, if you know what I mean. Like, as far as, I don't like saying this, but like, as far as like blood and stuff, like, it's only going to get worse, and I can't sit on a plane for that. And if something would happen up in the air, no. And so I think it just hit me like, OMG, we're going to have to go to the hospital in this different country. And just, I don't know, my vision of that set me into pure panic, and I just started shaking. So I ended up calling a friend, and I told her what was going on, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And she knew exactly what to do, bless her. I don't want to share that, like, who and stuff, just because I don't have that okay. But it was a person who I knew could help us. Because at that time, I'm like, I feel like I don't have anybody. I don't know what to do. I truly don't know what to do. Because I was like, I don't know how to get to the hospital. I don't know what to do. And so she knew who to contact, and she sent the the EMS, or body has like a medical team that travels with us to these on these trips. We have like a medical team, and just for emergencies. And so they came up to the room. It was, I think, 3 guys. And I told them what was going on. And at this time, right, like, I'm telling them, like, I'm having a miscarriage. And so they got an ambulance lined up for me. There was one guy who, I broke down, and he looked at me. He was probably my dad's age, and he goes, what's wrong? He goes, tell me what's, like, I know what's wrong, but like, what's scaring you right now? And I said, I'm just so scared. I don't want you guys to leave our side. I said, I'm so scared to go to a hospital with people that I can't communicate with. I'm so scared. And he looked at me and he goes, I promise you, I'm going to get emotional because like, oh, this guy brought a comfort to us that I can't even explain. Because in that moment, we were so scared. We were so scared being in a different country and not being able to talk with people. And aside from like what was going on with our child, we were just scared for ourselves. Because we were so uncomfortable of the space we were going to be in. And so, like the language barrier and not understanding stuff and being in a foreign hospital. And he looked at me and he goes, I'm not leaving your side. He said, that's what we're here for. And that just brought the biggest piece of comfort to me. And I was like, thank you. Like, just don't leave us. And so that man was with us every step of the way until we got back. But anyway, so the ambulance comes and like the language barrier was a huge thing. I remember the nurse like not being able to understand what I was trying to tell her. It was so frustrating. And I know it's like, it's no one's fault, but it was just frustrating when you're in this position of needing medical help and they can't understand what you need. So we get in the back of this van, Tyson and I and this guy, this medical staff that Body had hired. And we get in this van and when I tell you, this is like on the movies where the ambulance is like weaving through traffic. And I don't know how we didn't get in an accident. The way that they were driving and how fast they were driving. I mean, horns honking. It was so intense, you guys. And I was just laying in the back of the ambulance. And you know that song? I don't know the name of it, but it's like, oh God, I need you every now, like that one. That song just popped in my head and I just kept singing that. And so we finally got there. It was like a 45-minute drive to the hospital. I think it felt like forever. So we get there and we tell them like what was going on. And we got an ultrasound. So we go in and I get on the table and he goes to put the ultrasound on my stomach and he has like the screen, you know, so we can see. And I just looked away and I started sobbing because I was like, wow, I did not expect to get emotional. I remember being like, I can't see my child in my stomach without a heartbeat. And so I just looked away and I started sobbing. And he put it on my stomach and all of a sudden, and I quickly threw my head over at the screen because we just weren't expecting to hear a heartbeat. And Tyson just stands up and he's like, there's a heartbeat. And I just like, I didn't know what to think. We had gone an hour and a half thinking that we had lost it and processing a miscarriage. And to now have a heartbeat, we were just like so confused. And so the doctor or the ultrasound person obviously couldn't really like, we could kind of understand him. And he said something about a hematoma. I'd never heard of this word, okay? And he said, baby's okay. He said hematoma. I'm like, okay. Like, what? I don't know what that means. Does that mean I'm going to lose the baby? Am I in the process of losing the baby? We were just very confused at this point. And so, because we didn't know what was going on. So we have the ultrasound. We go back to the room. We wait. And then a doctor comes in and talks, and he was good with language, which is such a relief. And also at this same time, we called back home. The service was so bad, but Tyson was like trying to go out in the lobby, plus this saint of a man who was with us. He was also trying to call back home to my doctor to let them know what was going on and to make sure that like my doctor and this Punta Cana doctor were, to make sure we didn't want to fully listen. I mean, I know this sounds terrible, but like we wanted to verify with my doctor everything that he had said or wanted or suggested. Does that make sense? So we just wanted to make sure so he would tell us news or things that he wanted me to do. And we would tell my doctor and be like, does this sound okay to you? Is this what you want? This is what he's telling us is going on with me. What would you do? And so it was kind of like trying to get that. And so, but again, the service was bad. So we kept losing. We could only receive calls if we were in a certain spot in the hospital there. So it was all so difficult. Then he comes in, he says like, you have a large hematoma. That's what's causing the bleeding. And it's a big hematoma. And so basically a hematoma is kind of like a bruise. And so, but if hematomas get too big, especially early in your pregnancy, it will break. I think it breaks the sac off, and then that's when you have a miscarriage. And so it was almost like a tear in a way, if that makes sense, or like a bruise, an injury from the sac to, you guys are probably like, Hailey, you don't know this. Is it the sac to the uterus or something like that? I'm not quite sure. But anyway, we didn't want that to completely detach because that's when you have a miscarriage. And mine was big. And so he goes, you need to be put on bed rest. And he goes, I honest to God the Punta Cana doctor didn't want me to fly home for like 2 weeks. He was like, you need to go lay in a bed and not move for 2 weeks. And we're just like, okay, like that's not really an option. Like, we're just like, okay. So then we talked to my doctor. They agreed both to put me on progesterone right away. So I started that right away. And he goes, my main thing for you right now is you cannot move. You need to move minimally and carefully. He goes, even if you're riding in a car and you hit a bump, like that could be enough to break this off. And so I'm just like, okay. So we get in a vehicle and we go back to the hotel, and I was on bed rest until the end of we stayed until Monday, and we debated about like waiting and like getting a plane ride later in the week just so I could sit. We did kind of agree with several people's input, my doctor's input, that I could get in a wheelchair. This actually ended up being a godsend. In their airports, if they have pregnancy signs all over, so you can go ahead of the lines and everything. So like check bags, all the checks that, like the lines that you have to stand in, we were able to just go right through. So that was amazing. And then, we just prayed. We prayed and prayed and prayed that I could get home and very safely and things like that. So we get back, and I got home safely. Everything seemed to be fine. I saw my doctor right when we got back. They did another ultrasound, confirmed everything, and I basically was on a restriction for the rest of my pregnancy. He said, you can walk, but that's about it. He said, I don't want you doing anything else. He said, you have to remember that you are in a state of you need to be so careful for, jumping, being in a car. And it was hard, but it was really hard for Tyson too, because he was just like, don't move. He was like, don't move. And then for me, I'm just like, okay, it was just, But anyway, that honestly, I had that hematoma my whole pregnancy. It never really changed. I had to keep being monitored and have ultrasounds every 4 weeks because of that. But yeah, it ended up, I didn't have any more bleeding after that, which was great. And so anyway, wow, that was an emotional story. And we're not even to the birth part yet. So then at 30 weeks, I have an ultrasound and we get told that they see something with the heart. And we're just like, oh my gosh, okay. So they send us on to, no, did they send us on? I think they sent us on. Yeah, they sent us on to Sioux Falls to a specialist for this, and they did more ultrasounds, and they were like, it looks like it's going to be a smaller hole in the heart. There is a hole in the heart. It looks like it's going to be smaller, but when the baby comes out, we need to know this. And so it was just something that had to be monitored, because if the baby seemed to not be able to like eat good or get tired easily or anything like that, we were going to have to like know that it could be the hole in the heart and everything like that. So that was another thing that we were just like, oh my gosh, we were so worried about. And then at my 36-week appointment, we found out that my amniotic fluid was running on the lower side. My mom, fun fact, my mom had me 4 weeks early because she ran out of amniotic fluid. You don't want to run out of amniotic fluid. So, and that's something that they monitor and they check as you get towards the end, and probably on every ultrasound. But they noticed that at my 36-week appointment, it was starting to be a concerning level. So we had to come back a few days later for another ultrasound to see if it was getting lower, staying the same, or if anything had changed. I had another ultrasound at 37 weeks. We go in and the ultrasound lady was like, yeah, it looks like it's about the same as far as I can see. I can't say much, but I think you're going to be good. 15 minutes later, we talk with my doctor, and he goes, I think we need to set an induction date. We're not liking the level of your amniotic fluid. And fun fact about me, I had two things. So I had 4 fears in pregnancy, right? Like random fears. One was having more than one inside of me. I do not feel like that is something that I was made to do, is have multiple babies at one time. Some women I feel like are made for that, and you can tell they're just, you look at them and you're like, wow, like God picked you for the right reason. I don't feel like I'm that person. My fear was multiples. Another fear was C-section. A C-section is my worst nightmare. Obviously I would do it if we had to, but it is my worst nightmare. Being induced is not something I ever wanted. If I wanted to avoid being induced at all cost, obviously, if the doctor told me it was for the baby and for the best, I was going to do it. But some women love being induced. They love the timing. They're like, we have other kids at home. We want to know when we're having it. They like the plannings. I'm like, no. I don't want to be induced. I want my body to do this naturally. I don't want to force the baby out. And so I didn't want to be induced. And what was the other one? Multiples, C-section, induced. I feel like there was another one, but anyway. So my doctor knew that. He knew that I wanted to go naturally because I had him for Creed too, and I told him that. And so he knew that, but he told me, he goes, Hailey, I know that you don't want to be induced, and I'm taking that into consideration because I obviously want to do what you prefer. I'm trying to make this your wishes, but also like I'm telling you as a doctor, we need to induce you because this is something we don't mess around with. And right then and there, I was like, all right, like I'm going to listen to you. If this is a concern to you, I know my mom had this problem with me. And so, all right, let's set an induction date. And so they said, okay, how does, I think it was 2 days after we had heard the news. Like we had 2 days to prepare or whatever. And so we set the induction date. We went in at 7 p.m. at night. And so this is 3 weeks early. I'm 3 weeks out from my due date. And we didn't know at the time. So then we get there at 7 p.m. and they told me, and I felt like at this point, I didn't feel close to labor. I wasn't having like Braxton Hicks. You know how when you kind of feel you're like, this baby is ready to come out. Like, I feel like it could be at any point. I never felt like that. I was like, and so that way, that made me even more nervous to be induced, was like, I really don't feel like my body is ready for this baby to come out, but obviously it needs to come out. And so I was like, I haven't had any labor symptoms. This induction is going to be terrible. My body's going to be like forced into something it's not even close to being ready for. So I was just so nervous. So we get there at 7 p.m. They get me, changed or whatever. And then they said they're going to so the first thing they do is insert something vaginally to start labor. You wait I think it's 4 to 6 hours or something like that, maybe even 8. And then they do a second one. They insert something up there to try to get labor going. And then after that, they'll start Pitocin. So that was the game plan. So they insert number 1. And I lay there and she's like, okay, we wait. I wish I remember if it was 4, 6, or 8 hours. I can't remember. And she's like, I'll be back to do the second one. You probably won't feel anything with this first one. 2 hours after I had number 1 inserted, I began back labor. And I never realized how different labor contractions can feel. My labor contractions with Creed were nothing like they were with Capri. Back labor is something that I don't wish upon anyone. I've heard people talk about it, and now I get it. Back labor is the worst. It was horrible. I can't even explain it. It hurt so bad. It was like your lower back, it is contracting, and oh my Lanta, it was hard. So I labored. I was on the ball. I was sweating, and the doctor was like, "Wow," or the nurse, she was like, "Wow, we're already feeling this, huh?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in full on labor. I can feel this." So they hook me up. They can see I'm having consistent contractions, and things just went real fast. They didn't have to insert number 2. I didn't need Pitocin. Baby was like, all right, I need to come out. Let's come out. And so I think I labored for 4 hours, and it got to the point where I was in so much pain. I was exhausted. I think I was at a 5 after 4 hours when I asked for my epidural. And knowing with Capri's journey, I was like, I know with Creed, I got the epidural and they broke my water and it went fast. So I was like, let's do that again. So I labored for 4 hours. I was at a 5. And so then just like Creed's, I got the epidural. They broke my water, and I laid there, and the doctor came back a few hours later, and he just wanted to check in and be like, hey, how's it going? I think this was at 6 a.m. He was like, how's it going? I'm like, good. And he checked me. He goes, honey, you're at a 10. And I was like, really? And he goes, yeah, I'm just going to stand out here in the hallway and give you a little bit, but I don't think this is going to be long. He goes, if you start to feel a pressure down there, you need to tell me. He goes to stand in the hallway. Nurses kind of start to get stuff ready. And I'm like, okay, I feel pressure. And he's like, let's go. He goes, I know how close you are. She's like, this baby's ready. And so, yeah, we started. I pushed for about 15 minutes. And mind you, so if you remember Creed's birth story, we didn't know what he was. I felt in my gut the whole time he was a boy, but we didn't know. And with his complications, the birth reveal, the gender reveal wasn't magical like I had, how I envisioned it to be. With Capri, it was beyond magical. It was like a movie. And I swear to God, if we had that recorded, every single person in this world would decide to not find out gender, because it was the most beautiful, magical thing ever. Going into it, I felt like in my pregnancy, I was having a lot of girl symptoms. I only craved fruit, loved candy, didn't really crave meat like with Creed. I don't know. A lot of things were different that made me think it could be a girl. But I also had told myself, I'm just going to expect boy. And then if it's a girl, I'll just be like extra excited. Don't get me wrong. I was like, if it's a boy, we will be happy as can be. Like we're just blessed. But we didn't know if we wanted any more. We don't know if we want any more. So I was like, I mean, I'll be lying if I said one of each. That would be awesome, right? But you know how it is. You're happy with whatever. And so I was like, I'll be super excited if it's a girl. We'll be excited if it's a boy, but I'm just going to expect boy. And Tyson felt boy. He was like, and sometimes we would be like, I think the ultrasound lady like kind of threw in a he or something like that. And so there were a few times where we're like, it's a boy. Like ultrasound tech is giving boy vibes. And Tyson felt like it was a boy and things like that. And so I went into it just expecting boy. And so I push, she comes out, and the doctor holds up and says, it's a girl. And you guys, I screamed so loud. The people down the hall definitely heard me. I screamed and I started sobbing, and Tyson started sobbing, and we were just like, oh my God, it's a freaking girl. And yeah, the doctor's like, Tyson, do you want to cut the cord? And he's just crying. He's like, no, you do it. It was just so amazing. It was so awesome. They put her on me. She cried and cried and cried and cried. She cried so much. She was so unhappy. And then she latched perfectly, and yeah, that was the birth story of Capri. Obviously, if you know our story, Capri had a rough first month of life. It was not easy for any of us, but that's a whole nother story. Maybe I will tell that one next week. Maybe I'll tell part 2 of Capri's story next week. I just wanted this to be the birth story, but she has a whole nother story. She's had quite the journey. She's our little miracle girl. So, actually, if you think about it, both of our children are kind of miracles. Creed had the cord wrapped around his neck when he was born and took 30-some seconds to breathe. And then Capri has had her journey. So, but yeah. There it is. I think that's all I got. Man, it's crazy how birth stories for everyone are so different. I don't think there's one birth story out there that is identical. So just remember that. If you are going to have a child, or if that's something in your future, like, you can plan as much as you want. You can have a birth plan. You can think it's going to go this way. But honestly, in the end, you just have to pray and have faith in God that He is going to be with you every step of the way of that journey, even when it takes a turn in a different direction. And you just have to surrender. You have to surrender to Him and just, yeah. It is a moment of surrendering and just saying, we're going to do what is best in the moment. And that could change at any time, at any ultrasound and any little thing that happens. But yeah, anyway, that's all I got. Thanks for listening. And we'll be back next week. Bye, guys.